Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and today is Friday, March 15th, 2019, and this is our weekly video to look back at some of the eBay auction results of Chinese and Asian art, some Japanese things this week, and some real bargains. I saw some great things go through for very little money. We'll take a look at some of the things coming up that are closing in the next couple of days that are pretty good. We found quite a few things in the last couple hours here, looking around, see what's going on. But before we do, I just wanted to give everybody a quick heads up. A lot of you have already seen it. We did the second video on Asia Week. We had done one last week for several of the sales. This week we did a fairly long one, about 40 minutes, covering a number of the better items and some things that aren't necessarily so expensive but very interesting nonetheless. And I hope you take a look at it and think about maybe heading down to New York if you're in the area. All righty. And first up, we're going to take a look at this. This was on eBay last week. I saw this when it first went up, and it's not an especially old thing. It was made in the latter part of the 19th century, but it was clearly done to sort of emulate as a revival thing some examples that were done during the 18th century that were done initially to copy Qing things with this nice big broad crackle on it. Nice intentional crackle on it. It was a good looking vase. It was good size too. I think it was 13 or so inches tall. Nice looking pot, and it was one of these these latter 19th century items where they would treat the parts of the porcelain with this dry brown glaze to make it it would make it emulate bronze, so to speak, in the pieces. But if you examined it, you know right away it was by this foot rim. It's a late 19th century example, but very nicely done, and it did pretty well. But I don't think it was overpriced at all. $528 for this nice example. Let me see, how tall was this exactly? I don't know if it's in here. Can't find the dimensions right now. But at any rate, I think it was about 14 inches tall. All right, and move along to this. This was a nice looking sort of pear-shaped clearly Republican period vase. Not late Republican, I suspect, somewhere in the sort of in the center of the period. You can tell by the mark, the way the foot is shaped, nicely finished foot, and it's got this turquoise enamel with a bit of orange peel in it. Pretty typical of 1815 to 1825 pieces. Nicely done with some of the enamels. The decoration was good. Good facial expressions on all the figures. It had been drilled, but it still brought $482, which was a perfectly reasonable price for it. It was sold by a seller over in Dorchester in the UK. Had that. It was a nice thing. And this was put up by a seller. I had this on the newsletter page, but the way we listed, I couldn't add a note to it to point something out. This was listed as a late Ming dynasty, sort of a Wan Li plate. It isn't, and a lot of you probably recognized it. It's Japanese, but this was a very early piece of Japanese Arita. Probably dating to the 1680s or 90s. A very early piece of Arita. Here's the back of it. Still got a couple of these spurs, and it was had a slight crackle in the glaze, but there it is. All these tended to warp a bit. But look at this. This was a steal. $77 for that. That's a very good early piece of Arita. If you're a Japanese collector, I hope you bought it, because that was a very unusually early one, and very much in the manner of Wan Li dishes, which the Japanese did copy. Okay, now moseying over to this. This is a nice Satsuma plate. Very well done with all the little panels and roundels with different figural scenes in it. It was signed, and but good color and good condition, Meiji period, but very fine quality. Very good quality, and it went for $481. All right. Now, let's see here. What else? Oh, yeah, this is another nice Japanese thing. This is a Tacori sake bottle, probably Bizen, but nicely done. Late 19th to early 20th century, somewhere in there. Not a horribly old one, but beautiful quality. This was a nicely done thing. If you're a Japanese pottery collector, I do hope you noticed this. This was a nice object. Very attractive, quite appealing, in a good style, and it went very reasonably, $81. This was from our friend Steve up in New Hampshire at Coast to Coast Antiques. He's a good picker up there. He's busy, and he turns up some interesting things. All right, and onto this, the bamboo fellow on the frog, on the toad. Just adorable. This was a great little thing. It's probably late Qing. It could be slightly after, but hard to date. But this was beautifully carved, great facial expression on this thing. Nice detail all the way around. The eyes and the nose on this were beautifully carved. And it did pretty well. It brought $888, but it was a good piece of bamboo and nicely carved. The quality of the carving on that was excellent. Always go with the quality. All right. And now we'll go over to this. This was another nice thing. This was a mid-19th century fixed-handled porcelain teapot with script. But these are fairly unusual. They don't turn up very often. They were made for the Chinese domestic market. And on one side, it has pictures of figures in a boat enjoying a leisurely day out on the water. There's some astrological signs in the sky. And there's the script again. And this went very reasonably, $143. That was a terrific little teapot. If you're a teapot collector, this was a nice one. And these fixed-handled porcelain things were quite popular in the late Ming dynasty, but you don't see a lot of them after that. So in this blue and white shape, in this bell form, all right, they tended not to have those big loop handles anymore. They tended to have the back handles on the teapots only. And on to this was, I didn't open this one up yet. Hold on a second. Here we go. Is this incense burner? This was a good early incense burner, probably late Ming, cream glazed. Years ago, they used to always try to ascribe these as being Sung for some reason. They're not. This is a late Ming one, nicely glazed. It's a form you most typically see in Celadon. If the shape looked familiar, that's why, with these mask-handled feet and masked feet and so forth, and unglazed, partially glazed interior. And it went for $621. Hess Fine Art Auctions had this. They're pretty good sellers. They're in St. Petersburg in Florida. They get good things. And then on to this. This was a nice thing. 18th century blue and white plate, very much on the Kangxi style. They had it listed as Kangxi, but the blue looks a little inky to me, so I think it might be slightly later, but the foot looked pretty good. It's one of those hard things that's hard to differentiate exactly. But at any rate, it went very reasonably, $112. It had a hairline in it, but that was about it. This was some ceramics and collectibles over in Amsterdam. They have a lot of things on eBay right now. I think they probably have 23 or 400 things. They're big. They have a lot of listings, all Chinese stuff and Japanese stuff. And then onto this nice, this was a charming little 18th century bottle. Has sort of a transitional period foot rim though to it right here. This flat unglazed bottom, but the decoration looks a little later to me, so I'm going to call it 18th century or early 18th century, possibly Kangxi. Nicely done. It's a provincial bottle, but nicely done. And it went for $389, which is a perfectly reasonable price to pay for a thing like that. For some reason, the seller thought it might be from a shipwreck. I don't know why. That's Skids over in the UK had that. And onto this very lovely tan-colored, inscribed and incise decorated Yixing teapot. It's a late 19th or early 20th century one, but very fine quality with good decoration on it, and had a stamped seal mark on the bottom. But in good condition overall. It did have a line in the body here, but these with the inscriptions on them sell for the inscriptions. They sell for the added elements. If this wasn't inscribed, no one would have much interest in it. But there's a whole gang of people out there that buy signed teapots, and this was a nice one. All right, and it went for $557, even with a little bit of a hairline in it. And on to this, our friend Hans over in the Netherlands had this very interesting pair of incense burners, nicely enameled with those very exuberant mask legs on them, beautifully done, and then masks on the side done in sort of skin tones, but beautifully carved covers and nice stands. It's quite a package. These displayed well. They had Ming marks. They're not Ming, but obviously, but they were very fine quality, and they did fine. They brought $2,336. I thought those were very pretty. And then on to this, the late 19th century Famille Rose, sort of a Qianlong style thing. Obviously not Qianlong. Late 19th, early 20th century piece. Here's the bottom of it with that That very carefully shaped, nicely shaped foot, a little bit of legitimate looking wear on there, but good looking white bottom, good looking paste, and nice enamels. The shading on the enamels on this were quite good all the way around. There's a nice light blue that's been added, so forth, and it did fine. It brought $910. It was a good sized pot. This was a 16-inch jar, which is pretty good sized thing. And over to this, the sort of late Qing Republican period planter. But beautiful enamels, good looking decoration on this. Here's a good close-up of the side. All the greens are nicely outlined in black and then colored in quite carefully all the way around. I didn't see a lot of mistakes or oopses where they overpainted on here at all. Good quality right through. This flower is nicely shaded. The orange is quite nicely done. And it did fine. It brought $757, which is right in the price range for these. Pairs of these, we've all seen them. They bring, when you have a pair of these, they can bring $2,000 to $3,000 because people pay a premium for pairs on things like flower pots and vases. And then over here to the 18th century Immortals dishes. There's been a few of these have popped up in and out of the market in the last 6 months to a year. Here's a pair of them. One of them I know had a hairline in it, so they weren't perfect, but they displayed beautifully. They really display nicely, and they did fairly well. They brought $403 with a hairline, all right? But very nice looking plates. I always think of the pattern on those remind me of the DeWitt Clinton plates, quite similar. Now this was one of the little dandy little buys of the week. I like bronzes, and this was a nice early bronze. Probably Yuan to early Ming. Beautiful patina on it. He called it an incense burner or something. I forget what he called it. But nice early one. This was a good old bronze. It hadn't been cleaned up or abused in any way, with nice ring handles. And this went very reasonably, $77. Okay, if you're a bronze collector, that was a good one. If you missed it, I'm sorry. That was a very good buy for that. That great aesthetic appeal. This sort of exaggerated waist form base, and then very narrow at the top, forming out into a cup, almost like a garlic head top, but a cup form rim on it. Nice looking piece. And the same seller had this up. This was also a great buy. This was probably a Ming example, a mid-late Ming, but beautifully done, archaistic form, form vase. Here's a picture of the bottom. That's a good-looking bottom, lots of wear. The patina on this was quite nice. Good, deep cocoa brown patina. Doesn't look monkeyed with. Here it is, all right? And look at this. It went for $225. That was a fabulous buy. Okay, and the seller that had is a pretty good seller out in Seattle, Jade Duck. He gets good things, and he comes and goes. When he has something good up, we try to get it, put it on. All right, and then there was this nice Guangzhou trigram bowl with these little trigram rondelles with birds circling around it. Here's a picture of the bottom. Here's a picture. Here it is. Here's the picture of the mark and that nice rounded foot rim with a little bit of slight iron around the interior, but that nice smoothly finished foot rim and a well done mark. This was a perfectly good little Guangzhou bowl, and I like the diaper pattern on the interior, and it did very well. It had one bid. It went for $2,400, and that was the end of it. Okay, but that was a nice looking bowl, good looking bowl. All right, he had a big starting bid on it, but somebody was willing to pay it. And this Famille dish, this was a nice old dish. It's not a Kangxi dish. Here's a picture of the back. Obviously a latter 19th century one with this sort of messed up Ming mark on it, but nice looking thing. Possibly mid to late 19th century, but nice looking. Had a good colors, had a couple of little nicks out of the rim, and it did well. It brought $1,425. All right. But I like the scene. I like the figures on the terrace, the imperial sort of a royal family looking out over, and you have the ascending mythical woman swooping down. And that's from a long allegory. I think I talked about it once. Anyway, we'll move on. Was this Republican period a saucer, a tray, or brush washer? I'm not sure what this was intended for, but there's the back of it. It's pretty typical. Chin lung mark, 4 character, and overglazed enamels, but this was a Republican thing pretty clearly by the decoration. Nice quality decoration all the way around, sort of a revival thing for the Republican period. Good looking, and it came with a nifty little stand, okay? And it went for $1,963. Interest in Republican things continues. He had it listed as 19th or 20th century. I don't agree. I think it was probably made, well after the end of the Qing dynasty, but good quality. All right, and on to this. This was that big Famille Rose vase that was up. Very well done. Nice looking example. Good detail, good deep colors, good shading up here. Pre-1850s vase, and you can see that this cartouche is quite nice because it's in the shape of another vase. So it's sort of a vase on a vase, but good quality. And it ended up selling for $5,500. All right, which is not unreasonable for that. That was a big one. I think that was 24 or 5 inches tall. Okay, and then on to this. This was another great little buy on the week. I don't know where everybody was. This is a nice late Ming looking dish, that soft blue with butterflies and flowers floating around the outside, and this sort of quickly drawn in and colored, almost like Wan Li material, the way typical Wan Li colors or late Jing period colors. And it went for just $180. This was a seller in California who gets estate stuff. It's the Estate Sale Warehouse. And they just get in stuff, and they're not too, they're not great about titling it sometimes. As you can see here, he used antique Ming Dynasty, export, blue and white, Canton, porcelain, 6-inch bowl. Sort of threw a bunch of terms in there to see which one would get the most traffic. All right, but that was a great little buy for $180. Great little buy. And then we get over to this was the bronze. This was that nice big round bronze, late Ming, early Qing. But a good example. It had the fairly typical Zhendi mark on it, and but nice masks. Those are nice masks, beautifully cast, good quality, lots of nice little crisp detail in there, and then you have this beautiful shape. That's a heck of a nicely shaped thing. And this one was obviously polished up until probably 80 years ago. Often see these come on because in China they did polish them. They didn't just leave them alone. Often families would polish bronzes, especially Ming examples tended to be polished more than obviously the early ones. But it did fine. It brought $3,408, which I think was pretty well deserved. It was a nice bronze. All right, and that was it for the week. And now I want to take a look. There's a few things coming up this coming week, and there was a lot more we're going to add in, but we'll just go over some of them. Hold on a second. That's my list there. There it is. This is a nice piece of Shibayama. There was another piece of Shibayama up here last week or the week before, and it brought $3,000 or $4,000 or so. Give you a pretty good idea. This was a good example too. Nice ivory panel on it. Here's the work, very meticulously done. This one has a lot of floral work on it, and all done in silver, of course. And it's good size. It's over 7 inches tall, which is right in the range for these that you want to see. And it displays beautifully. It's a nice looking thing. And right now it's up to $650, and I expect to see that go up to the $2,500 to $3,500 range before it's done. But a good looking piece of Meiji period metalwork. And then there's this beautifully done ivory card case, first half of the 19th century. And as you can see here, like the Mandarin vase we just looked at had a vase built into it as a cartouche. Here they used another vase. It was a fairly common mechanism or device to use on flat surfaces. And here you have this sort of village scene with houses and buildings and people walking among trees. Good quality Canton carving, and it's up to $903, and has a couple of days to go. It closes on Sunday, but if you're a card case collector, it's a pretty good one, and it is located in the UK. All right, for those of you wondering about shipping those things. And then there's this. I like this. This is one of the Lohans, and I forget the name. There is a Lohan that's always seen with a pick sticking it in his ear, and I can't think of it offhand. But this is a nice wood carving. Nice, probably late 19th century or so, but good color. Here's some close-up of it. All right. Very, very well done here. Nice color here on this very nice sort of burly root stand. Okay, I like that. And there's a nice curve to the figure, the way it sweeps. You see Ming ivories were carved off in this way, sort of sweeping in their shape, sort of arching over. And we'll see how that does. But right now it's up to just $18.50. It should bring $300 or $400. If it brings less than that, somebody got a great buy, because that's a nice old carving. And then there is this bowl with the cranes and fruit on it, going around in some precious object. Now the seller has this listed as Ming. I don't think it is. I think it's 18th century, possibly Qing. Here's the inside of it. Doesn't strike me as being a Ming piece, but nice looking thing. It's up to $155, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, like that though. And this Famille Rose bowl is an export. More typically, these are thought of as export bowls, but very deep red enamels on it. And it is an 18th century one. Okay, well, here's the foot. There's the foot on it. That's a nice old foot, but unusually heavily enameled. And it's only up to $49 with 20 hours to go. I think that looks like a pretty good pot to me. And then there's this Famille Noir Qing style, but not Qing, obviously. But old. I think this is probably in the first half of the 19th century with these creatures on it. It has been drilled, but that's a good older foot with a nice sharp bead running around it and so forth. And it was obviously drilled out to be made into a table lamp because of its size. It's a nice size. But it displays well, and the neck appears to be okay. They didn't chop the neck off on it when they made the lamp. Oh, there it is. Where is it? There it is. All right, but a good-looking thing and very well enameled. And that is up to just $112. It has 20 hours to go, so it closes tomorrow, Saturday. So if you're looking for an interesting vase with mythical beasts on it and crashing waves, that's a good plate. And then there's a nice, just very nice, simple Famille Rose cut corner export bowl. Okay, these turn up fairly often, but this is a good legitimate one, and the price hasn't gone crazy yet. For some reason, they took all the pictures of this upside down, and it's up to $77, and that closes in a week. And we're going to be adding a lot more things tonight, so check it out when we send out the newsletter notice. And if you haven't subscribed yet here, please do. And leave a comment. We like to hear what people have to say, suggestions. If you've tried the assistant program, the ID assistant, or the auction assistant program, let us know what you think of it. We've answered hundreds of replies. It's really interesting. We've seen some lovely things. And at some point we're going to see if we can't get permission to show some of them, the things that people have been sending in. We're not going to say who they are, obviously, but maybe show some of the objects. We saw a fabulous pair of large, huge Japanese Amari jars the other day, and I'd love to show those. They were wonderful. And there were a nice screen. We saw a very good lacquer screen, and some things that people just have them. I don't know. I never hear where they got them, but I'd love to share them with everybody. All right, and have a great weekend. And if you go out this weekend hunting around, going to auctions, be careful of fakes and copies. But I do hope you find something you like. All righty, have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.